This is Mickey with Fretmill Music. I'm going to talk about humidity today. It's wintertime here right now, and the heat is running, and that means that the humidity in the houses and rooms and most places we keep our guitars is going to be fairly low. Relative humidity is, of course, the moisture that's in the air, and guitars being made out of wood are definitely affected by the amount of humidity that is in the air. If it's too low, you're going to have some issues with the guitar, and we want to help people avoid that if at all possible. If you have started seeing playing issues, maybe the strings are buzzed a little bit, it seems like the top is sinking down a little bit, the action isn't what it was before. It can even get so bad as having the frets being very sharp on the edge if the neck shrinks because of lack of moisture, and you could even get cracks in the guitar. What we want to do is avoid that if at all possible, and there's a very simple solution to that, and it's simply using a guitar humidifier. The best bet is to leave it in its case with a humidifier when it's not being played. And there are various humidifiers available, and I'll demonstrate real quickly how we can use some of these. The Planet Waves humidifier, it is basically this little plastic deal. The top comes off and there is a sponge in it. What we do with this is simply wet the sponge. They do recommend you use distilled water. Wet the sponge, squeeze out the majority of it. You don't want water dripping in the guitar. You only want the moisture from the sponge. But once the sponge is damp and moist and supple, we just spread the strings a little. It goes between the strings. You can close the case. That leaves the guitar with its own little environment so that it will keep the right humidity. Generally, what I do is I try to play my guitars every day or two, and I check them every time I get them out of the case. If for some reason I'm not going to play my guitar for a number of days, then I will try about every 3 or 4 days to double check that, especially if the heat's running a lot and it's very dry humidity. Every time I get the guitars out to play them, I take this out and I check the sponge. If the sponge is supple, as this one is, then I know everything is fine. The guitar is not thirsty. If I open it up and I find that this humidifier sponge is dry, I leave it out to remind myself to re-wet the sponge when I'm finished playing my guitar. If it's staying in its case and you're regularly checking it and your guitar is still showing symptoms of being dry, then either I would put a second humidifier in personally, or I would talk to a technician, maybe bring it down to the store if you're here local, to have us maybe see if we can figure out what's going on. If it already has a crack, then we want to re-humidify the guitar if at all possible. Oftentimes the crack itself will close up. Now, if it's a very severe crack, it may need a repair tech to do some repair work in there, maybe work some glue in there and get it to stay. But some guitars, I've even seen guitars that had wide open cracks, and when they were completely rehumidified, you couldn't find the crack. So the best bet is to, if you have damage, maybe get a tech to look at it, check it out, but be sure to get that guitar humidified again. The other thing to have is a digital hygrometer. This tells you the relative humidity in the room as well as the temperature. And what this will help you do is to monitor what's going on in the room that the guitar is. Some people want to leave their guitars out all the time. Well, if you can maintain the relative humidity in that room at say 40 to 45%, then it's not going to hurt the guitar. Really, if we take a little bit of time to take care of this humidity issue, we won't have many of the problems that we see come in the store, and you might be able to stop it again.